Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Huber begins now.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. Tasmanian producers have cautiously welcomed the free trade deal as the PM toured the northern seat of Bass. But Scott Morrison copped plenty of flack following his federal budget, and not just from his political rivals.
Back in Bass, the PM was hoping to reel in some northern voters in his Liberal heartland, but not everyone rolled out the welcome mat for Scott Morrison.
What do I think of him? What 3/4 of Australia thinks of him? Nothing.
Tasmanian lobster farmers among those celebrating a free trade agreement between Australia and India.
We have got the premium fish here in Tasmania. Yeah.
Side by side with Bridget Archer, pressure is mounting on the Prime Minister to legislate a Commonwealth Integrity Commission before the election is called.
I think that this needs to be a continuous non-partisan conversation before we can get to the point that we establish the Federal Integrity Commission that Australia needs.
Just days after the federal budget was handed down in a pre-election cash splash, Mr Morrison's opponents are questioning why funding wasn't allocated for the state's key green energy projects.
Premier Gutwein and I have had numerous discussions over the course of the last 3 to 4 months to finalise those arrangements.
If he's got something to say about Marinus, why on earth wasn't it in the budget?
The member for Lyons also criticising the timing of the Bridgewater Bridge project, with documents outlining a cost blowout to 2026, 2 years later than previously forecast.
I've told the Premier I'll eat this hat if there are cars rolling over that bridge by the end of 2024, and if there are not cars over that bridge, I expect him to eat humble pie.
I hope that after this election he's a private citizen and he can sit there quietly in his deck chair and eat his hat.
50,000 places are set aside in the next 3 years under the Commonwealth's Home Guarantee Scheme to get young people into the market, but housing experts say the budget was a missed opportunity to invest in rental assistance.
And one of the things we're seeing is rental arrears has become a real issue for a lot of people, so they need some financial support, even to stay in the housing they're in.
Tasmania's GST revenue is expected to increase compared to the previous financial year, but revised estimates show the state will lose $44 million from July 1, raising concerns about the broader impact to our economy.
This is a deal that Peter Gutwein and Scott Morrison signed up to. They signed this deal for Tasmania. So if Tasmania is going to be in a worse position, Peter Gutwein and Scott Morrison are responsible for it.
Treasury is doing further work in regards to GST in the development of our 22-23 budget.
The PM's plan to woo voters in the state's marginal seats will continue during his tour of Tasmania tomorrow. Ainsley Kosh, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanians are being urged to reconsider their need to visit the Royal Hobart Hospital's emergency department as the facility experiences significant pressure and staffing shortages due to COVID-19. Public Health is asking anyone with non-urgent medical issues to contact an after-hours doctor's service or the 24/7 Health Direct medical helpline. Tasmania has a record high 13,000 active cases in the community, recording more than 1,800 new infections overnight. Close to 50 volunteers are needed to fill roles at the state's first dedicated emergency services hub. Organisations say retention has been an issue, but they hope new strategies will help attract more women and young people.
They have boots on the ground when it matters most, each volunteer with a similar goal on the job.
I wanted to be a part of it and give back to the community. So yeah, started at the age of 10 as a junior, worked my way up through the ranks.
Being part of the team is such a great thing. It's so good for the community to have us there.
and able to help out at any time.
Emergency services are now on the hunt for a fresh cohort ahead of the opening for a dedicated working space worth $12 million.
This Sorell Emergency Services Hub is the first of its kind in the state, where we'll actually have police, the TFS and the State Emergency Service all on the one side.
It's not just for today, it's for moving on in the future and dealing with any issues that we will have in the future. It's a future-proof building.
A forward-thinking approach is designed to combat challenges attracting new members across the state.
We're resourced now with a volunteer strategy unit, which is going to work across both TFS and SES to be able to look at strategy to onboard and sustain appropriate volunteer numbers within our organisation.
Targeting all demographics and supporting locals into the roles is top of mind.
We're probably about 80% male, 20% female, and depending in the townships we're in, it's usually just locals. People like to live within often 10 kilometres of the station, which makes sense. They're supporting their local community.
Local organisations like Lions and Rotary are also experiencing difficulty in retaining volunteers. A number of clubs have been forced to amalgamate due to dwindling numbers. An ageing demographic and pandemic pressures blamed some of the problems.
Our volunteer base are working harder than they ever have, and that's part of our role now, is to make sure they're well supported.
Adding to the 5,600 Tasmanians already suiting up for the SES and TFS. Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
Locals in a northwest seaside town are split over a plan to build a path along the foreshore. Members of the Hawley Beach Protection Association say the Latrobe Council's planned concrete walkway will needlessly destroy vegetation and worsen erosion on the coastline.
This is our only buffer between the road and here, and we feel that it's really important to protect it.
But many say the path is needed.
To me, it needs to go ahead and be done. And there's a lot of people ride along here, and there's a lot of kids ride along here.
Latrobe Deputy Mayor Graham Brown says alternative solutions such as reducing the speed limit on the Hawley Esplanade or a wooden boardwalk wouldn't be appropriate for the site. A chasm is opening up in the TSL table, with last week's 3 winners all notching up another victory. For Launceston, it came in the form of another huge win, but for their crosstown rivals, it was much closer this time around.
A bomber battle is always one of the TSL season's most anticipated clashes, and the meeting at Skybus Oval didn't disappoint. Goals coming from the big men at each end, Josh McGuinness and Tom Bennett trading blows and finishing with 4 apiece. Though the hosts led by a point deep into time on, 3 consecutive North Launceston behinds were enough to steal the victory. Lauderdale finishing on a sour note, as their lemon yellow opponents finished with a 2-point margin. COVID has already threatened to stain the TSL season, with the Premiers Launceston forced to make 7 changes. Glenorchy, however, faced a different kind of challenge to get a team onto the park, as their bus reportedly broke down on the Midland Highway this morning. It was all square after a goalless first quarter. However, Launceston were kicking with the wind after the change. As they piled on 11 unanswered majors, the Pies could have been forgiven for wishing they were still sitting by the side of the road. Scoring wasn't as easy in the second half as Glenorchy stood up, but the Blues were too far in front, finishing with an 88-point margin. With the drop-in at Bellerive yet to be undropped, the Roos hopped over to North Hobart Oval for their season debut against Kingborough. Last week the Tigers saved their bite for the final quarter, but this week they were on the prowl from the very start. Tyler Carter dribbled through the opener to get them off to the perfect start, and then came back for seconds, thirds and a couple more serves, kicking 5 for the day. Luke Graham was comfortable on the goal line, and the Tigers got home comfortably, winners by 32. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
The giant-killing Jack Jumpers have done it again, beating the Adelaide 36ers in a Friday night thriller. It was a topsy-turvy game as both sides held double-digit leads. Tasmania entered the final quarter 4 points down, and Josh Adams was crucial, putting on an acrobatic show as he drove to the hoop.
Out. Playoff dream is still there for them. This man continues to impress.
He scored 31 points, the most by any jack jumper this season, as Tasmania won by 8 points. They've now won 6 of their past 7 games and are a game and a half out of the finals series.
Good evening. 22 was the state's top today in Devonport, Launceston 20, 19 in Burnie, Hobart 15, 20 across Strahan and Low Head, Flinders Island 18 and 16 in St Helens. On the close-up, mostly clear skies over the northwest with cloud being pushed over eastern and central areas of the state. Further out, an active cloud band with embedded thunderstorms lies over WA. Tomorrow a high is centred to the southeast of Tasmania with a ridge south of the state. Southeasterly winds tomorrow 25 to 30 knots, swells up to 2 metres in the west and south and reaching 1 metre in the north. A strong wind warning is current for the central north, Bank Strait, Franklin Sound, the east coast and Flinders Island. Tomorrow's forecast now: Hobart, a possible late shower, 19 across Richmond and Ouse. In the north, a shower or 2 in Launceston, 19 about Devonport and Deloraine. Burnie and Curry tomorrow, cloudy, 19 in Strahan. St Helens 18 and showers increasing across Swansea and Whitemark. The UV forecast is moderate 5s across the state. Looking ahead to the 3-day forecast now: Monday, showers about the east moving to the northeast in the afternoon. Tuesday, showers across the west, south and far northeast. And Wednesday, showers about the northeast and northwest, fine elsewhere. Capital cities 28 and a possible storm in Perth tomorrow. Canberra, a shower or 2 and 34 in Darwin. And currently Hobart 13 and mostly cloudy, Launceston 17, Devonport 17 and sunny. And before we go, a reminder about daylight savings, which ends in the early hours tomorrow morning. Clocks in will be wound back by 1 hour, so we'll all get a Sunday sleep in. Louise?
Wonderful reminder. Thanks for that, Jackie. And that's all your news for your Saturday evening. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.